just didn't quite expect as much as we're getting. Red flag gets shown then. Into gear they go. That's Michael Rudder right close to us. That is the Virgin Mobile Yamaha. Next to him, Gary Mason. Then it's Emmett, and then it is the pole man of Yuki Kagayama. Kagayama gets it spinning and goes backwards through the pack. And clouds number 8, Tommy Hill. Tommy Hill on the other Virgin Mobile Yamaha bike gets wiped by 71, and that was Yukio Kagayama. Yukio Kagayama launched that thing up and got himself in all sorts of mess, but look who leads. Oh, Rob Mack's going to be doing a rain dance. Leading is Gary Mason, number 6 on the Virgin Mobile Yamaha. Well, they are going to be so absolutely partying, even with just this start. We've only done 2 rounds. Look at this, is Yukio Kagayama getting it sideways off a line, and because the camber of that track is so bad downhill, he's got himself in all sorts of trouble and swiped Tommy Hill. That is, though, the other is the Suzuki of John Reynolds in 4th place, and that'll be easier on his shoulder in these wet conditions. He won't have to work quite so hard, Neil.
A lot less physical in these conditions. John Reynolds in the wet practice this morning, or just before this race, he was fastest. Gary Mason was right up there too, so both these guys got a good wet setup. Dunlop wet's working well, but Michael Rutter there on the Michelin wets. We know these Michelin wets are probably have a tiny advantage over the Dunlops, but John Reynolds goes up the inside.
Good one there, but he's got a little bit wide, and through comes Rudder straight back at him at Dingledale, but already Emmett is up front. Sean Emmett is right there chasing number 5 Sean Emmett on the Monster Mob Ducati. We didn't miss him, just didn't get a word in. That is Sean Emmett. He's had an off in warm-up this morning, and like I said in the opener, it's the first anybody's been off of one of the Monster Mob Superbikes since Paul Byrne has been running the team. So well, they've just about covered every base now, haven't they, that lot? So Gary Mason is about to lead at the end of lap 1. It is 20 laps. It's a long, long way to go yet as they come through Clearways onto Clark Curve now and along the Brabham Straight. Emmett is hunting down your race leader as Reynolds hunts through on the green Kawasaki. In fact, I didn't even know that Kawasaki was there.
Well, Scott Smart got a good start from the 3rd row, and he got past Reynolds just coming out of Stirling's, but Reynolds is back underneath him at Clearways. I think if John has any slight weaknesses, sometimes he doesn't settle down straight away in the first few laps, trying a bit too hard and losing a bit of time. But Gary Mason is not losing any time at the front here.
None whatsoever, but he's got Sean Emmett looking for him as they come down in that slippy old Graham Hill bend. That left-hander, Mason, Emmett, Rutter, Reynolds, Smart and Haslam. That's how it is. Let's look for Haslam. So that's Leon Haslam that's there. James Hayden on another Virgin Mobile Yamaha in 7th place. John McGuinness on the Hawk Kawasaki, deputising for Glenn Richards, of course. Dean Thomas, he had it off this morning at Stirling's corner. Not happy with his qualifying claims. Yukio Kagayama deliberately held him up. Even nearly fisticuffs in the Rizla Suzuki camp of that. Again, more about that in a little while. But first of all, let's concentrate on Gary Mason, as he has Sean Emmett behind him. Well, Gary Mason, as far as I can remember, has not been on the podium on a Superbike. So
Never.
Gary Mason has been looking for a podium for some time. I think Mondello Park last year was as close as he was likely to get. Look at JR. Tell you what, John Reynolds, I always called him the Gary Lineker of motorcycle racing. Off track, nice, smooth, amiable sort of a guy. On track, an animal. He is really the crisp thief of the motorcycle world, because he will steal anything from Rutter if he can. He's so tough. He has got a broken collarbone, not a cracked collarbone, not a bruised collarbone. He has got a separated bone in his shoulder that is only a couple of weeks old, and he's right out there doing it. Well, we've been joined here in the commentary position by Chris Vermeulen. We'll be having a few words with him in a moment. And Chris Vermeulen been having a fantastic ride on his Tenkata Honda at world level. But meanwhile, we'll stick with this for the time being while Chris gets himself plugged in. First of all, leading out, Gary Mason still on the Virgin Mobile Yamaha, filling in.
Here goes Sean.
Yeah, he just lined that up so well at paddock, didn't he? All the way down through paddock, got the drive. Sean Emmett out front. Well, Sean Emmett needs to redeem himself a bit, and I tell you what, as far as the championship is concerned, Sean needs a couple of wins here, and he just needs these kind of tricky conditions with a few spoilers in between him, Reynolds and Rutter, if he can manage it, and that will do his championship aspirations. As hard to believe it is, this race only just finishes the first half of the season. We start the second half of the season in the second race today.
We're only at halfway house, and you're dead right. People like Gary Mason in between Sean Emmett and the likes of Rutter and Reynolds will do his championship no harm at all, and we're pretty much all in a level playing field. There's 8 points between Reynolds leading the championship and Rutter in second. Kagayama and Scott Smart are not that far behind, so it really is still wide open.
So Rutter sitting there in 4th place on bike number 3 at the moment. He's got bike number 88, the Hawk Kawasaki of Scott Smart behind him. Scott Smart's had a cold this week, not been feeling 100%, found himself a false neutral at the top of Paddock Hill.
Yeah, here comes another Kawasaki.
That is
John McGuinness.
He's been riding good. He was up to 8th place a little while ago. He's in 7th place now. There he is, McGuinness on bike 75. That's Glenn Richards' motorcycle. And behind him, of course, is James Hayden. James Hayden deputising. This will be his final ride, we're told, from Steve Plater. Steve Plater, his arm's out of plaster now. He's here at the track. But deputising for him is James Hayden on the 36 bike, but still leading number 5, Sean Emmett, now easing that Monster Mob Ducati away from Gary Mason on bike number 6 in second place, and in third place John Reynolds on the Rizza Suzuki bike number 2. Then it's 3, the HM Plant Honda, Michael Rudder, being chased by the 88 Hawk Kawasaki of Scott Smart. There goes Reynolds up the inside of Gary Mason. Gary just slipping to the, well, we'll call them slightly more experienced men, shall we, for want of better words at this point.
It's still a good ride for Gary Mason, and that Yamaha looking like it's working well in the wet as well as in the dry this weekend.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, we have to remember that qualification, his third place in qualification was done in the dry. Fastest that for Reynolds. I tell you what, that is not a bad time considering how slippery it is. 1:36.7.
I've ridden these Suzukis in the wet, and the engine map, the Motec engine map they have for them works really well. First time I jumped on a bike, I thought it just would be hideous, having 200 brake horsepower. They're actually really quite nice and loads of traction out there.
Now, for those of you that are concentrating on the Superbike Cup this year, which is the privateers race, it's Steve Brogan, Baywatch Brogan, that's out there leading it at the moment. He's in 11th place overall, but Baywatch, good result for him. A really nice, likeable fella, and I'd like to see him get a bit of a result.
Yeah, I would too. I just talked to him in the pit lane. I said, how come you're not doing a wet practice? Because he opted to sit out. He says, well, I've only got one rear wheel. It's got a wet tyre on it, and I want to save it for the race. Never ridden his bike in wet conditions before, so he said he was just going to play it by ear, but he's doing a good job at the moment in 11th position. And
sponsored by Gary Rothwell, the stunt rider, of course. Gary Rothwell dipping in his pocket and helping Baywatch out a little bit. And, well, that's what Scousers are for, isn't it? They're all buddies.
Yeah, certainly good news for Steve Brogan out there, and the leading privateer at the moment, which is very impressive considering the amount of time he's had on that bike.
He's got Sam Cork behind him though, and quite close behind him, so Sam Cork will be there. Oh, look at him! Scott Smart backing it into paddock. He's not scared of the corner that had him off yesterday, is he? Still chasing Michael Rudder down the hill, but they're all chasing. Sean Emmett, the number 5 bike now, has over a second lead at the front from number 2, John Reynolds. Third is still Gary Mason on number 6. 3 is Rutter in 4th place. 5th is Smart in 5th place. As I said, John McGuinness up to 6th now. John McGuinness is now up to 6th.
And closing on temporary teammate Scott Smart.
Yes, temporary as in McGuinness is temporary, of course. Not that Scott Smart is at this moment in time. He's a team leader. Well, McGuinness won the Formula 1 TT just, what, 2 weeks ago, and at lap record speed from a standing start, nearly 128 mile an hour round the 37 3/4 road course of the Isle of Man, which is incredible enough when you just say it, but if you've actually ever had the privilege of driving around the Isle of Man course, you just wonder how the hell they ever managed to do that.
Not too many years ago, in wet conditions, you would have predicted that Michael Rutter would have run away in these conditions. He is so special in the wet, but everyone's caught up now. He is the only guy on Michelin's out there, so that may well be having an effect.
Well, I did actually manage to speak to him just a little while before we came on air. He wasn't that confident about the way, he didn't say it, he would not say it was tyres, but he said consistency, it was too cold for the Michelin, the way it was working. He said it's just a little bit cold, which I read into being that the tyres weren't coming up to the temperature. Michelins do need a little bit of temperature in them, and there ain't none here at Brands Hatch at the moment.
John Reynolds has had half a second of lap on Sean Emmett for the last 2 laps, and you can see he's closed right in on Sean Emmett, having a look back, coming out of Stillings there again, taking his hand off the handlebars, but not too dangerous that time.
No, I don't think we'll even go there as far as that particular situation's concerned. Sean Emmett under pressure then, there it is, shows you what the last lap gap was, and 1:36.467 was Sean Emmett's time. John Reynolds 1:35.6, so considerable difference there from John Reynolds. You can't believe this guy's riding with a broken collarbone from 2 weeks ago at Thruxton. It was a massive great off at the club chicane when he clipped the back of Gregorio Lavia. No rider at fault, just one of those domino effects, a general racing incident. Of course, we have actually asked Paul Denning what his thoughts were on team orders and the like were concerned. He said there were team orders when I spoke to him. But there you go, obviously no one was listening.
A bit of a language problem
I
there,
think maybe the Spaniard, maybe he should have said it in Spanish to Gregorio, but whatever, it wasn't Gregorio's fault, it wasn't JR's fault, it's just an unfortunate set of circumstances to make it actually work for him.
He's a Spaniard living in Helensburgh in Scotland, so I'm sure that's upset the language thing. But Sean Emmett, he has done some special things around here before in the wet. I've seen him riding around here on slick tyres and actually going really fast, so he is really confident. He's a good race setup here, but at the moment JR is catching him.
Yeah, JR now in a perfect position, isn't he? Just sitting on the shoulder of Sean Emmett, and Sean Emmett, well, he'll know he's there as well. Really, they're going to wait for the track to come to them a little bit, I would suggest. It's lap 6, it's just about stopped raining here, and we've got a long way to go yet, and there's a long way back from second place man Reynolds back to third place man Gary Mason.
Steve Brogan's gone down, unfortunately.
Yeah. Cooper Straight. Actually, that's that slippery old back straight, isn't it? At the end, the one behind the pits is the Cooper Straight.
There goes John Reynolds into paddock. Not quite close enough.
I think he's just sitting there. Yeah, it is the Cooper Straight. So out of Graham Hill, the left-hander at the bottom of the hill. They're coming up to Druids now. We'll point out where the Cooper Straight is in a moment. As Reynolds takes a look at the inside of Druids. Well, he just has everything in hand, doesn't he? He just made that look very... Oh, well, open my mouth and it will be slapped straight away. So running a little bit wide, leaving Sean Emmett a bit of a gap. Now the sun's shining here on Graham Hill Bend, and this is the Cooper Straight. And I would suggest that that bike being covered of Steve Brogan's there, you only have to touch a white line there and you're off straight away. And well, I have to guess because we didn't see it, but Brogan was down at that particular part of the corner. Now this is where Emmett fell off this morning in warm-up. Surtees corner. Now they're on Pilgrim's Drop, and again Reynolds just having a little bit of a rest. Well, while he's having a little bit of a rest, we'll have a little bit of a rest. Welcome to the studio again. Chris Vermeulen joins us. You've been here and done that, haven't you?
It's good to see a Superbike race now, and obviously last weekend was really good for me, winning at Silverstone. So.
Indeed, you're in winning mode as well, so on a bit of a high. But Pirelli tyres, of course you can talk absolutely first hand regarding Hager and Haslam here. Pirelli tyres, these conditions, how do they work?
They're not too bad, you know, but it's been known in the past that in the wet, normally Michelin's work really well, but as you were saying before, it's obviously not hot enough, and I thought Michael might run away with it being on the Michelin's, but the Dunlops do work very well in the rain as well, but you know, Superbike racing is new for Pirelli, so they've got a lot of development to do.
Indeed, and also they won't be developing much except a cold in this kind of weather, so Reynolds has another look, but Emmett just lets the brakes off at the top of the hill. This is going to be a bit of a ding-dong, Neil, I have the feeling, and these two really are sizing each other up at the moment, aren't they?
It's not quite done and dusted. John Reynolds a bit stronger onto the start-finish straight there, but Sean Emmett really comfortable running round the outside of him.
Well, no surprise, really, considering that John has the sore shoulder. He's really got it, you know, like that must be where it gives him the most jip under braking into those corners.
He says it's just a bit uncomfortable, and he says his worst problem is just having confidence to ride the bike hard, because he just feels that if he goes down it will be curtains, it will do some serious damage, so really he's conscious that he has to get to the end of these races.
Just clarify for me, a bit uncomfortable. You've got a broken collarbone. I mean, fortunately I've never broken my collarbone, so I can't speak first hand, but a bit uncomfortable doesn't sound quite right, even with the amount of adrenaline pumping around and grinding those edges together on the braking areas.
After 2 weeks it has started to heal, but it's still very tender. He has it strapped up. He has a functional bandage on there to give it as much support as possible. Takes his hand off there to clear his visor a little bit, but yeah, he's not at full strength, far from it.
Well, we'll see what he's capable of as this race runs on, of course. The only thing about John Reynolds that is slightly suspect then is his fitness. It's certainly in his commitment that's been a problem. We questioned that as we came on air whether he should have had that shoulder plated, and certainly at the moment he's showing us that he didn't need to have it plated. It's working as good as it probably could have done, even if he'd had an operation to have the separation stuck together with a bit of titanium before he came down here at Brands. Lots of power and lots of drive out of clearways there.
That block there, that was a good block.
Nice little block pass as he came towards Paddock Hill Bend. Well, now gives Sean Emmett, as we're on lap 9 of the 20, plenty of time now to sit behind John Reynolds. Sean Emmett will be getting aboard, and hopefully this week he'll be paying attention to it. He'll be looking to make sure that there's no one going to sneak up to him from third place, which is still Michael Rutter in front of Gary Mason. Rutter has now slipped up in the third place. Take another look at this. He just gets the drive nice and gentle underneath Sean Emmett.
Obviously the Suzuki working well there, and sure it has some big horsepower, but he got a good drive out of clearways onto start-finish straight.
Well, that's slippery, of course, and the only limiting factor is going to be what a rate you can put the power down on the tarmac, and of course that looks so good from the Suzuki there, up to the 140 mile an hour front straight. They're now moving up to something like 170 mile an hour at this particular point before coming down to Hawthorne Bend. It'll be about 80 mile an hour, 75, 80 mile an hour in the middle of that corner. It's normally 90 mile an hour in the drive, but they are a little bit steadier. Not much, it has to be said. As you can see, knee skimming the dirt there at Westfield Corner before dropping down the hill at Dingle Dell, and then up to the newly named last year Sheen Curve, which used to be Dingle Dell Top, double right-hander. Now it's one big sweeping right-hander and a little bit more runoff there than there used to be in the past. This is Stirling's, where last time's pole sitter, the Thruxton man, Dean Thomas, fell off in warm-up. Oh, and there's Kyle Bryce. Now, we don't often get an opportunity to talk about Kyle Bryce, do we? The diminutive Kyle Bryce having a ride on the Superbike. Remember, he was the guy that was leading the R6 Cup Series before capitulating and coming up to Superbike, and he's qualified for the second time in this series this year.
Yeah, good ride from Kyle there. He's a small guy and he's learning to ride Superbikes in at the deep end really on that big CBR 1000 Honda, so he's got a lot of learning to do, but he's out there in these conditions are very tricky.
And he's moved well out of the way, been paying attention there to the blue flag, so it's good to see Bryce has been keeping an eye on what's going on right out wide. He won't cause any problems to the front two, although as he drops down the hill here he might just be at the apex when the others catch up, which can be a bit of a pain for all concerned. Yeah, it was for Rutter. Rutter got him just where he didn't want him, forced him out onto that slippery stuff. No fault Carl Bryce though.
Sean Emmett's not looking as confident as he was in the opening laps. He's looking around a little bit and he just doesn't look like he can commit on that 999 Ducati.
Well, can we start talking about tyres then in that case? It's obviously drying just a fraction. We don't know what they've put on. We know what he's put on, the Michelin boy, but we don't know what Sean Emmett's got on there at the moment.
I'd imagine they'd all be on full wet, certainly the conditions.
Yeah, especially the guys at the front. You need to be on wets now to go quick in the rain, but as you can see, the track's drying. It's going to create more heat in the tyres. And
Scott Smart is in. Now that looks like he's going to try and restart that bike, so I don't know what the problem was. It looked like they were looking at the rear end of the motorcycle. So Scott Smart drops into pit lane. He was slipping back down the order, but we don't know why at this point. But I know Jonathan is down in pit lane, so maybe he will find out for us, and we might hear from him in a little while.
Unfortunate for Scott Smart because he's put together a pretty perfect season so far. But his teammate this weekend, John McGuinness, up to 5th, and I remember last year John had a few outings on the ETI Ducati and had some good rides in the wet. One I remember at Knock Hill.
Michael Rudder closing in now on Sean Emmett in second place. The reason I questioned about tyres was not that they got full wets on, I would have expected that, but of course they do get different compounds of different types of tyres. It could have been a different compound full wet that Emmett plumped for.
Well, they had that wet test just before this race, so they would have an idea then, but you can see the track now,
really
there's a dry line appearing, the round paddock there, it's pretty much dry.
And you could see Emmett there spinning that rear end up as he dropped down to Graham Hill Bend, and no such problems it would seem from Michael Rudder as he gets some heat in those Michelins. He's closing in on Emmett now. Worst case scenario as far as Emmett's concerned, because he needed to pull back on both John Reynolds and Michael Rudder in the series, languishing hundreds of points behind John Reynolds at the moment in the championship, and this was his great hope to try and move on up with a couple of 25 pointers. Reynolds, Emmett, Rutter, Mason still fourth, still looking for that elusive first ever podium on a Superbike. McGuinness up to 5th. Well, I've got to say, much as I like John McGuinness, and I really do rate the guy, and a thoroughly good guy at that, to be in 5th place on a Superbike on his first ever ride on the Hawk Kawasaki. Safety car out. I saw a safety car flag there, and it's on our monitor as well.
That's just what John Reynolds.
And the lights are out on the pace car. That means then the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. Scott Smart is being held until they all fly by under full power. And I think Stuart Hicken has made a decision that that bike is not going anywhere. It's enough's enough. Then he's decided not to waste that motorcycle or his rider in these conditions, starting at the very, very back of the grid, which I think is a good decision in the circumstances. He wasn't going to gain anything from it at all, was he really, Neil?
Not at all. I think Kagayama there, you can see he's psyching himself up for a bit of a charge. I think John Reynolds in pretty good shape, but that bunch behind him, anything could go on there. And like in the dry, these tyres cool down when they're coasting around like this. They get up to optimum temperature, cool down a bit, so they have to be careful on this lap.
Here we go then. This is restart time. In comes the safety car. On the power goes for John Reynolds. John Reynolds has control, of course, at which pace he puts the power on over the second and third place men, but that was a good launch from John Reynolds. Got it absolutely bang on right, but everybody's going to be mindful. No temperature in these tyres, and if you remember last time we were at Brands Hatch, Carl Harris in the Supersport race, right on cue from Neil Mackenzie saying they've got to be careful of cool tyres. Down he went big time at this next corner we come to, which will be the left-hander at Graham Hill. Very difficult, downhill off camber, and really just about enough of a dry line there. Well, I'll tell you what, that does show how tentative they are, doesn't it, really, with cool tyres, because they're all taking it very sensibly steady.
They're all well aware of what's going on as far as tyre temperature goes. I think they'll pretty much maintain the position. You can see Kagayama running a bit wide at paddock on that opening lap, but everyone's settled down now, and thankfully everyone's made it around at least the first half lap.
Well, they're going to need at least a lap or a lap and a half, probably 2 laps to get some proper temperature in. Paul Bird there, of course, owner of Monster Mob Ducati. Alongside him was Phil Borley, the chief technician for Sean Emmett. But look at John Reynolds. Well, I've said it once and I'm going to have to say it again. John Reynolds really is a bit of a hero. A broken collarbone 2 weeks ago at Thruxton in a massive great crash. Didn't really think that his fitness would be up to this at all. I have to say that privately I said to various people around me earlier on today that I didn't think he'd be fit enough to do the 20 laps without fading a little bit to the end. Of course the weather has played into his hands a little bit, but you've still got to be good enough and have the confidence to do the business. And John Reynolds is a hero.
He certainly is. These things take a bit of riding, even in the wet. You really have to keep your wits about you, and while it's less physical, concentration actually probably has to be higher, if anything.
So then, as the racetrack dries out, we're on lap 16 of 20. Michael Runner takes a look at the inside of Sean Emmett. Sean Emmett can do without that close attention, but they both let John Reynolds go at this moment in time, and seemingly have absolutely no answer to Reynolds' pace, whether the track's drying or whether it's soaking wet. Reynolds is the man today. Still Gary Mason in fourth place there on bike number 6.
The tricky thing about these conditions as well, although Kageyama wide at Druids, he was just making progress. He was on the back of McGuinness there, but the tricky thing is that there's that dry line, and that's where you need to be on. If you're out wide, if you pass someone, you really have to get back onto the dry bit before you get to the corner.
Well, it's McGuinness that's the man for me so far today. You've got a real job today. Don't forget the Think Rider of the Day. Neil McKenzie's Think Rider of the Day. He's got to choose that. I'm sure Reynolds is going to get it at this particular point just because he's a hero. But you've also got the John McGuinnesses of this world. Gary Mason having a good ride too. But then when you look behind them, you've got Hayden and Hill, the other two Virgin Mobile Yamaha boys that are coming into the fray as well as this track dries out fractionally. And that's not, of course, mentioning Yukio, who's sideways again. I know. He's a scary fella, isn't he?
He really is. He's seesawing in this race, gets up to the front, then moves forward, then moves backward. But really just need to settle down a bit and just keep his head down, try and get closer to John McGuinness. But John McGuinness is doing a good job. I'm sure he's thinking about trying to get past number 6, Gary Mason.
No doubt about it. Yukio Kageyama, one of the fans' favourites. You can see why his commitment to British Superbike has been greater than most British Superbikers of the past eras. He really has put his neck on the line for this championship. He's given it absolutely everything, and the fans love him for it. He might be Japanese, but he might well be an adopted Brit nowadays. So, still Emmett in second place, being chased hard by Rutter in third place. Mason still fourth. McGuinness, though, on the Hawk Kawasaki. Oh, Stuart Hicken must be smiling, you know, because really, you couldn't have expected this much from John McGuinness, considering, you know, he raced on the Isle of Man. He's a part-time rider. He's done very little indeed. He's not ridden this Hawk Kawasaki till a little test before this race meeting. So, John McGuinness just proving what a great talent he is and how wrong people are not to be hiring him.
Well, coming from the Isle of Man, he's confident, he's fit, he took 2 good weeks in there. He actually looks the fittest I've seen him. He looks like he lost a bit of weight and looking really strong, and he's a really naturally talented rider. And I like him because he's a real anorak as well. He knows everything that's going on.
Exactly, that's why I always think he does well at the Isle of Man, because he absolutely knows every bump, divot and God knows what in that 37-mile track. And I think John McGuinness can use his memory retention to, mind you, you don't need memory retention here at Brands Hatch, you just need to be a bit aggressive, and he's going to be in a minute on Gary Mason. Could ruin Gary Mason's day, really, McGuinness, couldn't he?
He certainly could. And Michael Rutter there, he's right on the back of Sean Emmett, but it looked like it was a bit frustrating for a while. He could maybe had a little bit more pace, but there's no way he can get past him because there's only one dry line pretty much all the way around.
Well, race leader John Reynolds still has the fastest lap, 1 minute 34.8 done on lap 10 of this race, so well, I think we can expect a faster lap. It's going to get quicker and quicker as it gets drier and drier. Of course, the diminishing returns that we're going to get from the degrading tyres as this track gets drier might just affect that lap time. Probably these tyres would be better if it was wet, would be able to do faster lap times than if it dries out on wet tyres. I reckon they're going to go slower, Neil.
Well, fastest lap of the race went to Reynolds on lap 10. That was the lap just before the safety car came out, 1:34.820. But he really does have a couple of seconds on pretty much everyone else on this racetrack.
Incredible. Still, Emmett holds on in second place there on bike number 5. Still, number 3 on the HM Plant Honda is Michael Rudder, who really thought, I think, I think I can be fairly sure in saying, although he's not said it to me personally, he must have come here thinking to himself, Reynolds is injured, this is my opportunity.
Mason
goes under Rutter.
Well, surely he's wide.
Oh, you're surely right. So off goes Mason. Oh, that's ruined his day, hasn't it?
Nursing the throttle, keeping it going. That gives John McGuinness a position without taking any chances.
Yeah, indeed. So Gary Mason slips back, I think even behind these two, which are his other teammates. Yes,
Oh, McGuinness up the inside of Rutter.
And has got it. McGuinness then slides underneath Rutter. Well, Michael Rutter wouldn't have expected that. He didn't expect to see green today. Well, I was saying beforehand that he might have come here expecting that he could gain some points back on series leader John Reynolds. Reynolds has an 8-point lead over Rutter, of course, going into this race. He's going to extend his lead in the most unexpected of circumstances. And from what I said earlier on, getting a spoiler in amongst this lot is what most riders really dream of. And at the moment, John Reynolds has got 2 spoilers in there, in Sean Emmett, and now, most unexpectedly, John McGuinness coming through into 3rd place.
And there's
Incredible.
another potential spoiler on its way in the form of number 71, Yukio Kagayama,
Yeah,
his teammate.
You might have expected him, though, to actually be amongst the spoilers. I mean, mind you might have expected Sean Emmett to be amongst the spoilers. I suppose John McGuinness is the unexpected spoiler of the day. Did you get an award for that, by the way, Neil? You're going to give one for that?
Look at mate, we're not looking at Gary Mason going wide at Drews. Keep nursing that throttle, just trying to keep that Virgin Yamaha running, making sure
well,
he keeps
actually.
it. He did well to get
Yeah.
back on the straight. But John McGuinness in 3rd place now, he's thinking about Michael, he's thinking about Sean Emmett, he's getting closer. If he can find a way past him.
Well, Stuart Hickin has had many times to drink champagne this year, and I think that, bearing in mind their team is somewhat depleted here at Brands Hatch. Scott Smart a little bit off the pace on his home track, really, and Glenn Richards seriously injured, it turns out, now with that arm. His arm is a lot worse injured than we all thought. The wires that they wired it together with have come unravelled. I know Chris Vermeulen here in the pit lane. I mean, you were a teammate of Glenn's, and he's a good boy, isn't he? But not happy at the moment.
No, he had some bad luck. I was actually up there on Wednesday, and he went to the hospital, and they found out some of the wires came loose. So yeah, he wasn't very happy that day at all. But it turns out that it was quite badly injured. But Glenn will be back soon, I'm sure, and he'll give it the best he can.
Cadwell Park, I'm told by Stuart Hickin, is the optimum time for him to come back, although he's reluctant to let him go at Cadwell Park if his arm is not so good. Well, Kagayama now makes John Reynolds' day, because his teammate, unlike last time out, is doing him a bit of good, because Yukio Kagayama, and I meant Gregorio Lavia, of course, not Yukio Kagayama, for those of you confused at home, Yukio Kagayama now takes away valuable points from Michael Rutter, while Kagayama's teammate Reynolds is on 25 up front. But here comes McGuinness. I thought he was going to do it at Dingle Dell
I was
then.
about to say now, what does John McGuinness think? My best ever result in BSB on the rostrum, nice safe ride home, or can I go one better? And he's thinking about that one better, one more step up there.
And why not? He's right there with every chance. We're on lap 19 and 20. They're about to come round to start their last lap here. Well, I'll tell you what, I thought the weather might have put a bit of a dampener on this opening race, but it certainly hasn't. It's been enthralling for different reasons. This is the main reason for me. Think rider of the day. Well, I'm thinking about John McGuinness at this moment in time. Emmett gets the power down a little bit better. You can see how desperate he is to keep it in front of McGuinness, because the rear end of that Monster Mob Ducati absolutely squirreling down into the dirt. I think I can use the word squirreling, because Kevin Schwantz, the founder member of the Squirrel Club, is here at the moment. He was the one that originally used that phrase, and Kevin Schwantz at trackside today, he'll be impressed. Out in the damp bit there was Emmett, but no chance for the Hawk Kawasaki to close in on 5.
No, on that last lap, number 75, John McGuinness, that's the most out of shape I've seen him. He's wiggling around because he's trying hard, and these tyres are getting too much temperature in them now, and the dry conditions are moving around a lot. But Sean Emmett's looking good.
But if Emmett is pushed into a mistake, and I'm sure that that's McGuinness's plan as much as any other, but Emmett really has upped his game on that last half a lap. We're on the last lap. John Reynolds leads on bike number 2 at the moment. He would not have thought that he could. He's been trying to win a race for how long now? The last 3 or 4 meetings. Hasn't been able to. He comes in with a broken collarbone. He's chucking it down with rain, and he goes out and makes it look easy. So Reynolds out front on the Rizla Suzuki. 2nd place, still number 5. Sean Emmett on the Monster Mob Ducati. There he is, dropping down Dingle Dell. But the shock of this race surely has to be John McGuinness, the TT hero, out for the first time on the Hawk Kawasaki in a BSB race. He's on the podium. That is, of course, unless Yukio Kagayama, who's in 4th place on bike 71. And I'll tell you what, if this has gone a couple of laps longer, then Kagayama would have been right there with McGuinness. But I think it's going to go long enough for this to stay exactly as it is as we come down to Clearways and then on to Clark Curve. It is going to be John Reynolds then. What a hero. What a difficult decision for Neil Mackenzie to make a rider of the day. That is race 1 of our day done with. The Rizla Suzuki camp just getting it better than they thought possible. Emmett comes through in 2nd place. McGuinness, another hero, in 3rd place, but at least he's fit. So the Hawk Kawasaki gets 3rd. Championship is now done and dusted, and it was a remarkable ride from John Reynolds. No one could touch him, even with a broken collarbone. Sean Emmett looked good, but his tyres eventually going off, and he had to finish in 2nd place. John McGuinness eventually working his way through to 3rd place. What a great result for his first ride on the Hawk Kawasaki ever. Yukio Kagayama then, he too was a bit of a hero, coming right the way through the field after well, an unbelievable start. You'll see that in just a few moments' time. Michael Rudder slipping down to 5th place. James Hayden, the best of the Yamahas, eventually in 6th. 7th was Tommy Hill, his teammate, and Leon Haslam on the Renegade Ducati in 8th. 9th, Sam Cork, the best of the Superbike Cup riders then. He gets the 25 points as a privateer. Dean Thomas, he has had a torrid old week this week. Had a bit of a tumble this morning and finishes in just 10th place so far today. Dennis Hobbs, Chris Platt, John Kirkham, Craig Coxall, and rounding out the last points in the Think Superbike race championship was James Ellison, of course. There it is, a 22-point lead. It's gone up from 8 points to 22 points over Michael Rutter. John Reynolds, well, what can I say? Sean Emmett then, third. Yuki Kageyama, Scott Smart.